So Rab, moving on, you and I had conversations a few weeks ago, and we talked previously about the problems that you'd had last year, where you really struggled to get any pups on the ground, and I think you're going to obviously be suffering this year and even into next year with lack of dogs. Now, you were telling me an interesting story about the fact that the pups weren't surviving, and you were, I was going to say, pulling your hair out. I won't take a cheap shot, but basically you were struggling the fact that you couldn't get any pups on the ground, and then I gather you had an interesting conversation, yeah?
Yeah, I met Ian Openshaw. I hadn't seen him for I don't know how many years, Floyd. I hadn't seen him for quite a wee while. And Ian's a good breeder. Ian's one of the top breeders in England for the gun dogs and all the rest of it. You know what I mean? I think he even does dogs for the Royals and all the rest of it. That's how highly respected the man is. And we just got into talking. And of course, Ian asked me a simple enough question: how you getting on with your breeding in that, Rab? And I says, I've had problems. He says, wait till I come over, and he sat down and he says, what's your problems? And one thing led to another. I told him so I was getting bitches mated with frozen semen, and as soon as they were born, they were dead. They were dead within an hour they'd been born, but they always looked healthy and everything, Floyd. And I phoned my vet, and my vet, puppy fading syndrome and all different things. And I was telling him the story about it, and he came out with an interesting thing. He says, Brad, you've got to start injecting these bitches with a herpes jag. And I looked at him. He says, you never heard it? I says, I've never heard it. He says, as soon as your bitch comes in season, inject her with a herpes jag, and the week before she's due her pups, give her another injection with a herpes jag. He says, I promise you, Rab. He says, I had it. He says, I went through it. He says, and I think a lot of the big breeders have all went through it. So I sat down straight away, Floyd. I went straight home, and I made inquiries with my vet about getting my bitches done with it and all the rest of it, and no problem. And touch wood, listen, I've never had a bit of trouble since. Queen Anna's last litter, I think she had 9. And I think within 4 hours, there were 7 of them dead, Floyd, and the 2 survivors, a 1 survivor. And she's still running. She's no open class, but she's still running. But I'd sent the bitch up to higher butt, and this time I had done her with the jag. And I sent her up to higher butt, and she's got 5 dogs and 1 bitch there, Floyd, and they're absolutely out of this world. I'm over the moon with them, Floyd. So it looks as if it's worked there. I've taken Skate on up, and I've got her mated. This will be her last litter, if she has pups. But I've done Skate on too with the herpes jag. I taken her up, and I got her mated to Roxholm Nidge. And I'm just waiting, Floyd, to see if she has in put. I'm hoping, very, very hopeful, you know what I mean? So, and I've got a lot of pups out in the field. They're about 6 months old. They're out King Sheeran and King Danny. And as I say, the last time King Danny had pups, a lot of them died within 6 hours of being born. But this litter that's out in the field, they're all brilliant. So listen, I owe the man a big gratitude and thanks for what he put me right. And I just hope that everything goes okay. But Ian's a great breeder of gun dog, and no fear. No one of these boys that's feared to sit down and have a conversation with you about things in that, Floyd, because I think there are a lot of boys out there that's still a bit secretive with some of the things, you know what I mean? But Ian's always been a good friend of mine. He was a good owner with Charlie Lister, you know what I mean? He was a real good greyhound owner, and he was a big owner. I think he was involved with the Leicester boys and all the rest of it at one time. And Ian's always had really good dogs. He was very well respected, and he was always over at Desi Lochry's, you know what I mean, who was another great breeder of greyhounds. So along the way, he's picked up some great ideas, and I've got to give him a big thanks for passing some information on to me. And I hope he doesn't mind me talking about it, because I don't mind helping other people out of this if it's going to help things. You know what I mean, Floyd? I'm the one for hiding things and all the rest of it. If I could help him out, I would help him out too, and Ian's the same.
Yeah, I think when we originally sounded him out a few weeks ago, because we talked about this for a while about recording it and talking about it, and I think at the time I remember you kind of running it past Ian and him saying he had no problem, and I think that's great. And I think at the time was also one of the Irish trainers, weren't they? They were saying that they'd had a similar problem and they'd had to use the jab as well. So
Peter Cronin and his son, I met them just after I was speaking to you. And I met them just up at the top of as I was walking back around to the kennels there, Floyd, and I met Peter Cronin. I was talking to Peter. He says, he says, Rab, he says, we've had to do it. We have had to do it. He says, we were getting big problems. So for them to start talking about it straight away to me when I mentioned it to them. But see, this is the thing about some of these boys. You've got to mention it to them before they've started discussing things with you. You know what I mean? So it was just... I would rather have it that they just told you, listen.
It's difficult though, isn't it? I mean, if you've got a bit of a problem in the camp to begin with, you're not quite sure that there is a problem, and then eventually it dawns on you there's a problem, and then you don't really like the sort of the blight of it. I mean, when we had things like Parvo at that stage, then you kind of, everybody got it, so everybody was happy to talk about it. But there've been 2 or 3 different things in my lifetime where breeders have been absolutely poleaxed. But I can understand that they're just a little bit reluctant to sort of air their dirty washing in public, I guess.
It's not really dirty washing, Floyd. I don't see it as dirty washing and all the rest of it. I think it's just sitting talking, doing from man to man and having that discussion, you know what I mean? And Rab, and I was probably lucky because, as I said to you, I hadn't seen him for a while, and it was the opposite side of the way into the restaurant and that. He was over the other side, and we were shouting back and forward, and he come down, and he says, and he sat down at a table. Of course, we were 2 meters away, but we could be able to sit down there, and he was asking me about my breeding and all the rest of it, and we just get right into the conversation. And he started writing everything down for me, Floyd. He actually started writing down everything because he probably knew I would forget about it 2 minutes after he told me. I'm at a bad age now, Floyd, you know what I mean? So it was handy that he was able to write it all down for me. And when I get round to the van later on, I was texting my vet straight away if this was possible. And she says, yeah, no problem. We can go down that road and have a look at it. And everything's been, as I say, touch wood, everything's been perfect since. Pups are great, Floyd. Pups are absolutely brilliant. The litter of pups out there, Higher Butt and Queen Anna, couldn't ask for any nicer litter of pups. Every colour under the sun. It's like a rainbow in there when you walk in. All the different colours. But that's nice too. It's nice not just to have a full litter of blacks or whatever. They're all multicoloured, white and fawns, white and blacks, and all the rest of it. A blue dog, a fawn dog. You know what I mean? So, no, really, really delighted with him, Floyd.